Among the largest herbivores of the savanna, few move with urgency. Their bodies are built for mass, not speed. Thick shoulders carry heavy heads. Curved horns extend outward, designed less for pursuit than for resistance. African buffalo travel in groups that can number in the hundreds. Age and condition vary, but cohesion remains constant. Calves stay near the center. Stronger adults occupy the outer edges, adjusting their position as the group moves. This structure is not symbolic. It is functional. Individually, a buffalo is vulnerable to exhaustion and isolation. Its size limits acceleration. Long chases favor predators. But biologically, this species is not adapted for flight. Its survival strategy relies on proximity memory and coordinated response. Buffalo possess a heightened awareness of threat. Past encounters shape present behavior. Individuals respond not only to immediate danger, but to patterns learned through repeated exposure. When pressure appears, reactions spread quickly through the group. Unlike many prey species, retreat is not automatic. Movement slows rather than fragments. The herd compresses instead of scattering. This behavior reduces opportunities for separation, but it also creates density, an environment where mistakes can escalate. Aggression in this context is not impulsive. It is measured. Buffalo do not pursue without reason. They hold ground when necessary and advance only when the balance shifts. Horns are used to redirect, not to chase. Weight becomes leverage rather than liability. In the ecosystem, buffalo function as stabilizers. Their presence alters predator behavior long before contact occurs. They are not dominant, but they are costly to challenge. For hunters dependent on efficiency, uncertainty carries risk. As pressure builds, the herd continues forward, aware, compact, and unwilling to scatter. The conditions for confrontation begin to take shape. The herd moves with deliberate pace, shaped by habit rather than urgency. At first, light activity spreads gradually. Individuals rise, reposition, and begin feeding. Heads lower in unison, sweeping through dry grass with steady motion. There is no rush. Energy is conserved wherever possible. Movement follows familiar routes. The group advances as a single body, expanding and contracting around obstacles. When terrain narrows, the formation tightens. When space allows, it widens again. Each adjustment happens without signal, guided by proximity and repetition. Calves remain close to the center, partially obscured by surrounding bodies. Their steps are shorter, less consistent. Adults compensate by slowing matching pace rather than forcing speed. This reduces strain and prevents gaps from forming. Stability takes priority over distance covered. Rest periods arrive without announcement. The herd pauses near shade or shallow depressions where visibility remains open. Individuals turn outward, scanning, while others lower themselves to the ground. Even at rest, alignment is maintained. No animal is fully isolated. Feeding resumes in cycles. Some individuals graze while others remain alert. Ears rotate independently. Heads lift briefly, then lower again. These interruptions are frequent, but brief enough to detect change without disrupting routine. This rhythm defines most days. It is neither defensive nor aggressive. It reflects a balance refined over time, one that minimizes unnecessary exertion while maintaining awareness. The herd does not anticipate danger constantly, but it remains prepared for it. Sound carries far across open ground. Hooves compress dry soil. Breath moves through large lungs. The herd is audible long before it is threatened. Concealment is not an option. Presence is accepted as a constant. Despite size, and noise disorder is rare. Individuals that drift too far are absorbed back into formation. Small deviations correct themselves quickly. The group resists fragmentation even when terrain encourages separation. This cohesion is not maintained by leadership alone. It is reinforced by repetition. Each animal responds to those nearest adjusting position in real time. No single individual dictates movement. Control emerges from alignment. As the sun rises higher, the herd advances toward known water sources. Distance is measured against heat and availability. Decisions are conservative. Detours are avoided unless necessary. The cost of uncertainty is too high. Throughout these hours, pressure remains low. No immediate threats present themselves. The environment appears stable. The herd's behavior reflects this assumption. Routine continues uninterrupted. Yet this normalcy is fragile. It depends on predictable conditions, weather spacing, and time. Any shift in these factors carries consequences. The herd's rhythm can absorb minor disruption, but sustained pressure alters priorities. As the day progresses, temperature climbs. Shade becomes scarce. Movement slows further. Fatigue accumulates gradually, almost unnoticed. The formation holds, but effort increases. These subtle changes do not announce danger. They prepare the conditions for it. The herd continues forward steady and intact, unaware that the balance sustaining its routine is beginning to narrow. As the day advances, the savanna tightens its grip. Heat settles over the grasslands, reducing movement and compressing life toward the few remaining sources of water. Shade retreats to narrow lines beneath scattered trees. The open ground offers no relief. The herd adjusts its pace. Steps shorten. Feeding becomes intermittent. Heads lift more often now, not in alarm, but in calculation. Distance to water begins to matter. Time becomes a constraint rather than a background constant. Dry seasons reshape behavior without warning. Paths that once provided steady access now demand longer travel. Muddy basins shrink, forcing animals to approach from limited angles. Congestion increases. Encounters become more frequent. For large herbivores, dehydration carries consequences before exhaustion does. Muscle strength declines subtly. Reaction time slows. The cost of unnecessary movement rises. The herd compensates by tightening formation and reducing deviation. This compression alters visibility. Individuals see less of the surrounding ground and more of each other. Peripheral awareness narrows. Sounds overlap. Signals blend. The environment becomes harder to read. Pressure does not arrive as a single event. It accumulates through repetition. Each additional kilometer traveled under heat increases demand. Each pause shortens recovery. Over time, small inefficiencies compound. Younger animals begin to lag. Not enough to separate, but enough to influence pace. Adults adjust again, absorbing the delay. Progress slows further. The herd's shape becomes denser, heavier, more resistant to sudden change. At the edges, scanning becomes more frequent. Ears pivot toward distant movement. Heads lift and remain raised longer than before. The routine of feeding is interrupted by extended observation. The ground itself offers little assistance. Dry grass provides no traction advantage. Dust lifts easily, marking movement from afar. Tracks overlap along common routes, revealing direction and density to any observer. Water lies ahead, but not close enough to remove uncertainty. The herd must commit to continued travel or risk turning back toward depleted ground. Neither option offers relief. This narrowing of choice defines environmental pressure. It does not force immediate action, but it reduces flexibility. As conditions become less forgiving, the margin for error contracts. The herd responds by doing what it has always done, maintaining cohesion. Formation tightens further. Gaps close. The cost of separation now outweighs the cost of fatigue. Unseen, these conditions alter more than movement. They shape attention. They influence readiness. They prepare both prey and predator for decisions that cannot be delayed. The environment does not choose sides. It applies force, evenly revealing which strategies remain viable under constraint. As heat continues to rise and distance to water remains unresolved, the herd moves on slower, denser, and increasingly exposed to forces it cannot yet see. The first indication is not movement, but absence. Birds that had followed at a distance lift away without sound. The grass ahead remains still, yet something in the pattern has changed. At the edge of the herd, scanning becomes fixed rather than rhythmic. Heads remain raised. Ears hold their position longer than before. Attention narrows toward a single direction. The predators do not announce themselves. They appear gradually blending into the uneven tones of dry grass and shadow. Low to the ground, they move in stages, pause, advance, stop. Distance closes without urgency. There is no immediate reaction. The herd does not accelerate. Formation remains intact. Movement continues forward, but pace slows again, almost imperceptibly. Predators test this response. They shift position, angling toward the rear where movement is heaviest. A slight change in direction follows, subtle but coordinated. The herd adjusts, bending its line without breaking it. This is assessment, not attack. Both sides measure risk. Predators look for instability, an uneven stride, a delayed response, a momentary gap. The herd offers none. As pressure increases, individual animals at the perimeter step closer together. Density rises. The space between bodies decreases. Calves disappear entirely from view, surrounded by muscle and horn. The predators close further. Now clearly visible, they maintain parallel movement rather than direct approach. Their path mirrors the herd's trajectory, matching speed without contact. A brief surge follows. One predator advances sharply, forcing a reaction. The herd responds by compressing rather than fleeing. Movement slows to near stillness. The advance halts. This exchange repeats. Short advances, immediate resistance. Each time the herd denies separation. No individual breaks away. No disorder emerges. The predators adjust again, widening their formation, probing for an angle that creates imbalance. They circle, then pull back slightly, maintaining pressure without committing. Time stretches. The herd continues forward now, fully aware of the presence tracking it. Attention remains fixed outward. Feeding has stopped. Movement exists only to maintain alignment and direction. At this distance, contact would be costly. The herd's density presents a barrier rather than an opportunity. Horns overlap. Weight concentrates. The margin for miscalculation narrows. Predators hesitate not from fear, but from calculation. A failed attempt carries injury. Injury reduces future success. The cost of engagement must justify the effort. The herd's behavior communicates this clearly. It does not panic. It does not scatter. It absorbs pressure and holds. This moment marks a shift. The encounter is no longer defined by pursuit alone. It becomes a negotiation between endurance and risk. As both sides continue to move under mounting environmental strain, the balance remains unresolved. But the assumptions that usually govern a hunt begin to weaken. The first signs of danger have passed without escalation. The situation remains open, but the conditions are no longer neutral. Pressure no longer comes in brief advances. It settles in and stays. The predators maintain their position alongside the herd, adjusting distance, but never withdrawing completely. Their movement is economical, conserving energy while forcing the herd to spend it. Each step the buffalo take now serves two purposes: forward progress and defense. Fatigue begins to surface in subtle ways. Breathing deepens. Heads dip lower between scans. The rhythm established earlier in the day no longer holds. Movement becomes a series of calculated efforts rather than a continuous flow. The predators respond to these changes immediately. They increase frequency rather than intensity. Short approaches replace long ones. Each probe is designed to test reaction time, not to force separation outright. The herd absorbs these attempts through compression. Individuals on the edge rotate inward, replaced by others with more energy. This redistribution prevents any single animal from bearing sustained pressure. It is not random. It follows learned patterns reinforced by past encounters. Despite this, cost accumulates. Every adjustment requires effort. Every halt delays access to water. The environment offers no recovery window. Heat remains constant. Distance remains unresolved. One predator advances more aggressively than before, pushing into the outer edge of the formation. Horns lower in response. Bodies shift forward as a unit. The predator retreats just before contact. No chase follows. The herd does not pursue. It returns to formation and continues forward. This exchange repeats. Again and again. Each time the predators withdraw sooner. Each time the herd's response becomes more immediate. In most hunts, repetition favors the hunter. Fatigue isolates weakness. Panic creates opportunity. But here repetition reinforces resistance. The herd's behavior grows more predictable and more costly to challenge. The predators adjust strategy once more. They spread wider, attempting to stretch the formation rather than penetrate it. Pressure is applied unevenly, shifting from rear to flank, then back again. The herd counters by tightening further. Forward movement slows to maintain density. Progress nearly stops. The decision to continue forward now carries equal risk to stopping altogether. This stalemate defines escalation. Neither side disengages, neither commits fully. The environment continues to drain both. Dust rises, with every movement marking position and direction. The encounter becomes visible across open ground, attracting attention from afar. Yet no interference comes. Time passes. Minutes stretch. Energy drains without release. For the predators, the calculation sharpens. Injury remains a possibility. Numbers remain unfavorable. The herd has not yielded separation despite prolonged pressure. For the herd, delay threatens dehydration. Stillness increases exposure. Yet retreat would reopen pursuit, converting resistance into flight. The situation narrows toward a forced outcome. A final sequence of approaches begins. Predators move closer than before, testing the threshold at which the herd will either advance or scatter. The response is immediate and unified. The herd does not flee. It slows further, then stops. The formation contracts to its densest state. Horns align forward. Bodies press shoulder to shoulder. Movement ceases except for minor repositioning. This is not hesitation, it is a decision. The predators halt as well. Distance remains minimal, but the advantage has shifted. What was once pursuit has become confrontation without momentum. The cost of engagement now outweighs the potential reward. Pressure applied repeatedly has reached its limit. The escalation cannot continue without consequence. One side must change behavior. The point of no return approaches not through chaos, but through restraint. When movement stops, the ground itself seems to hold its breath. The herd stands, compressed weight distributed evenly across the formation. No individual advances, no one withdraws. The alignment remains intact, reinforced by proximity and shared pressure. Predators remain closer than before. Distance has narrowed into a range where reaction time matters more than speed. The usual advantage of pursuit has disappeared. Momentum, once the driving force, no longer exists. This pause alters the dynamics immediately. Without forward motion, isolation becomes difficult. Any attempt to force entry now requires direct contact. Horns overlap. Bodies present a continuous surface. The cost of engagement rises sharply. The predators adjust their stance. Heads lower, tails remain still. Focus tightens. They circle slightly, seeking a point where resistance might be thinner. None appears. The herd responds by holding ground. Subtle shifts redistribute weight. Individuals at the front brace, anchoring their stance, those behind close gaps without advancing. The formation remains dense and deliberate. This moment carries irreversible consequences. If the herd breaks now, the chase resumes. Fatigue would compound quickly. Separation would follow. If the predators commit now, injury becomes likely. Recovery from injury would extend beyond this encounter. Neither option offers advantage. Environmental pressure remains unchanged. Heat continues to drain energy. Distance to water remains unresolved. The pause cannot be sustained indefinitely. A small movement breaks the stillness. One predator advances half a step. Horns angle forward in response. The advance stops. Another probe follows slightly wider. The herd counters by shifting laterally as a unit, denying entry without forward motion. The predators retreat again. These exchanges clarify the outcome. The herd's resistance is no longer reactive, it is controlled. The predator's approach lacks the speed required to overcome mass and coordination. For the first time since the encounter began, the predators face uncertainty not imposed by terrain or fatigue, but by the behavior of their target. The rules that govern most hunts no longer apply. There is no advantage in speed, no opportunity for separation, no momentum to exploit. The herd senses this shift without signal. Movement resumes, but not in retreat. A measured advance begins slow and unified. The formation holds its shape while closing space. This advance is not pursuit, it is pressure. Predators yield ground, incrementally stepping back to maintain distance. Each retreat confirms the imbalance. The cost of standing firm has transferred from the herd to the hunters. The environment offers no cover for retreat. Open ground exposes every movement. The predators disengage gradually, widening the gap without turning away completely. The herd does not chase. It advances only far enough to re-establish space, then stops again. The boundary is clear. This exchange marks the point of no return. The encounter cannot revert to pursuit. The decision to stand has reshaped the outcome. As distance increases, pressure dissipates. The predators continue to withdraw, preserving energy and avoiding injury. The herd remains aligned, advancing only as needed. The confrontation ends not with speed or violence, but with repositioning. The laws governing this interaction have shifted. What began as a hunt has become a standoff, resolved by restraint and coordination. The outcome is now inevitable. The final phase approaches not as chaos, but as consequence. The distance between them widens slowly, measured in deliberate steps rather than sudden retreat. The predators move first, not by turning away, but by yielding space. Each step back is controlled, calculated, to avoid provoking pursuit. They keep their bodies' angled eyes fixed forward, ready to respond if pressure returns. The herd advances only enough to maintain separation. There is no acceleration, no attempt to chase. The movement is uniform, restrained by the same discipline that prevented collapse earlier. The goal is not dominance, it is stability. As space increases, tension drains from the encounter. Horns remain forward, but posture relaxes slightly. Weight shifts redistribute effort across the formation. Breathing steadies. The immediate threat recedes, replaced by awareness rather than alarm. The predators pause again at a greater distance. They reassess, scanning the herd for any sign of disorder. None appears. The formation holds. The density remains intact. No individual has drifted far enough to invite reconsideration. The calculation is complete. The cost of engagement outweighs the reward. One predator turns partially away, not signaling defeat, but closure. Another follows. The group begins to angle off, increasing distance with each step. The herd does not respond. It maintains position until the gap is sufficient, then resumes its original trajectory. The confrontation has ended. What remains is consequence. The herd reforms its traveling pattern without haste. Calves reappear near the center, shielded once more by surrounding bodies. Adults resume their outward-facing orientation. Movement returns to a measured pace shaped by fatigue rather than fear. Energy expenditure during the encounter has been significant. Muscles carry strain. Heat continues to press. The distance to water still lies ahead. Survival remains unresolved, but the immediate threat has passed. For the predator's withdrawal carries its own cost. Time and energy have been spent without return. The opportunity has closed. Injury has been avoided, but hunger remains. They move on to search for conditions more favorable to pursuit. Neither side benefits fully. Neither side loses completely. This outcome reflects the reality of natural selection. Survival is not guaranteed by strength or speed alone. It emerges from alignment between behavior and circumstance. When conditions shift, strategies must adapt or fail. The herd's decision to stop altered the structure of the encounter. By removing momentum, it removed the predator's primary advantage. By maintaining cohesion, it denied isolation. By advancing only when necessary, it applied pressure without overextension. These actions are not conscious choices in the human sense. They are the result of accumulated experience reinforced across generations. Individuals respond to proximity and movement, following patterns that have reduced loss in past encounters. The predators recognize these patterns as well. Their hesitation is not confusion, but assessment. Injury compromises future hunts. A single mistake carries long-term cost. Disengagement preserves viability. As distance increases further, attention shifts. The herd's focus returns to terrain, water, and spacing. The predators fade into the background, no longer a central force. Dust settles. The ground resumes its quiet. The climax of the encounter passes without spectacle. No extended pursuit, no collapse, no sudden reversal. The outcome is defined by restraint rather than violence. This resolution reflects a broader truth. In open landscapes where concealment is limited and numbers matter, confrontation does not always favor the aggressor. Under certain conditions, resistance reshapes outcome more effectively than escape. The herd continues forward, carrying the weight of the encounter in slowed movement and sustained vigilance. The predators move on, seeking opportunity elsewhere. The hunt has ended, not because one side prevailed, but because the balance no longer justified continuation. Nature does not reward effort alone. It rewards efficiency, alignment, and the ability to recognize when advantage has shifted. The savanna absorbs the encounter without trace. Tracks overlap and fade. Dust settles back into the grass. What remains is movement continuing along familiar paths shaped by necessity rather than outcome. The herd advances toward water at a measured pace, still compact, still attentive. The structure that held under pressure remains intact, not because of success, but because it remains effective. Calves stay shielded. Adults maintain position. No signal marks the end of danger. Awareness persists as a constant requirement. For the predators, the landscape offers new calculations. Withdrawal does not indicate failure. It preserves strength for conditions better aligned with pursuit. Hunger continues to shape movement, just as resistance shaped this encounter. This exchange leaves no monument. There is no lasting mark beyond altered distance and conserved energy. Yet it reinforces a pattern repeated across open ground. Survival is not dictated by role, but by response to constraint. When escape loses its advantage, other strategies emerge. When momentum disappears, coordination gains value. When pressure rises, restraint can reshape outcome. The laws governing these moments are neither fixed nor moral. They adjust with environment, number, and timing. What works once may fail elsewhere. What appears passive may prove decisive. Life continues forward governed by these shifting balances, not by victory, but by persistence.